stone. But first, we're going to do just a touch of review from yesterday. And let's see, we have notes from yesterday. Some of you made your own notes. So if you want to continue notes, you can. But I have got a question for you today. But before we do that question, I want to just show you, this is kind of the procedure that you should follow today, each day when you come to class. And I think this is a good practice for every class. When you come into a class in your live session, it's also a really good idea to just right away open up a separate browser window, log into your online class, whichever class you're in. So when you're in math, log into math. When you're in English, log into English. Okay. And then click on that plan tab, open the plan, and see what we're doing today. That way you can anticipate, that day's activities. If there's going to be a link that you need to get for a quiz or an exit ticket, it's already easily accessible. Okay. So here's the question. As soon as I read it, then I will let you read the choices, and then I'll give you polling tools to answer the question. What is visualizing? What is visualizing? You've got 4 choices there, 4 answer choices. Decide which is the best. If you're not sure which one, that's okay. Always better to take a guess than to not participate. So AJ, since and Caleb, since class has started, I'm going to ask the spamming in the chat to stop, please. Okay, it's time to be on task. Time to get started. So the question is, what is visualizing? You have 4 choices. And I'm looking for an answer from 18 students. So I'm still looking for an answer from Ayana and Farah and Caleb and Max and Xavier and Tiana. Yep, and you know what? If you're not sure of the answer, take a guess. There's no shame in taking a guess. Still got 3 more folks. Tiana, Caleb, Farah. Make a choice, please. You can't see? If you cannot see the polling tools, then you can just answer in the chat. So the question is, what is visualizing? Is it A, guessing what will happen next? B, paying attention to the sensory details to form a mental picture in your head? C, asking questions as you read? D, I'm still thinking. All right, so survey says letter B. Letter B is correct. If you didn't get it right, that's okay. Let's cement this in our minds. I asked them, Farah, I asked them to answer in the chat. I don't think Tiana could see the polling tools. So that's why I asked for it in the chat, okay? So that is totally fine. And so let's move on. Today we're going to talk about character traits, the way we get to know characters and stories. Practice a little visualization if we have time. Continue reading the stone, and we will end with an exit ticket. Daily vocab. Instead of relying on rainwater, farms try to irrigate their land to nourish the crops. The word of the day is irrigate. Irrigate. What do you think irrigate means based on how it is used in this sentence? Use those context clues. Cherish, would you like to answer? Is that why your hand is up? You have mic permission if you would like to answer on the mic. Mic won't work. Peyton, how about you? Peyton, would you like to take a chance with that? Guessing what that means? Oh, looks like your mic is muted, Peyton. So click it once, Peyton. It looked like it turned on. You can go ahead and take a chance in the chat. Peyton, I see, like, to me it looks on, so go ahead and try to talk. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's on. Let me try to fix the setting on my end too. I've been having some sound issues and such today as well. Folks, be nice in the chat. Now I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
Now I can hear you. Using their own water.
Yes. Good. Very
Using
good.
their
I'm glad you got that.
own water.
Glad you got that troubleshooted. That's right. That's right. Using their own water. I'm disabling the chat for now because you guys are being rude. Rudeness is not something that I tolerate in my classroom. Okay? In Mrs. Cole's class, I demand that people be friendly and nice to each other. And if you won't, if you're being kind of bullies in the chat, I just shut it off. Okay? So I'm going to give you another chance. If you have something to say, you can say it kindly. Okay? So let's be done with that. Okay? Take the high road. Farah and Sebastian, take the high road, please. Okay? Otherwise, we won't have chat. Sebastian, I want you to participate, but I want you to do it kindly. Okay? So let's keep it focused on the lesson, shall we? So irrigate means to water. Irrigate means to water. Instead of relying on rainwater, farms try to irrigate their land to nourish the crops. Irrigate means to water. Okay, so we are recording as usual. Moving on. So when we read stories, authors help us get to know characters in a few different ways. Okay? In a few different ways. They do it by what the character does. We can look at a character's actions to learn about them. Just like when we are getting to know other people, we watch how they act. Okay? Through what the character says or his or her speech, right? We listen to what people say. And then through the characters' responses to other characters, their interactions. Here is an example in picture form. This girl is taking food to her sick friend in action. What can we infer about her? And infer is just a fancy way of saying making an educated guess based on what we know. Yeah, that the girl is friendly and generous. Yeah, friendly, generous. She cares about her friend. That's right. Good, Trinity. Yep, she's kind. Okay, so this is a picture that we're looking at, but when we read stories, we need to examine the words that the author gives us. So here is an example. Here is an example. Now, you can see that this is dialogue. This is speech, right? Because it's marked off by quotation marks. Ah, what a sorry thing it is to have your bones creaking and cracking, and dim eyes and dull wits. When I think that this might come to me too, a fine, strong-armed, sturdy-legged fellow like me, one day to go tottering and have his teeth rattling in his head and live on porridge like a baby, there's no fate worse in all the world. So how does Mabon feel about growing old? The author gives us words that Mabon says. How does he feel about growing old? Xavier. Uneasy. That's good. Sebastian. Uneasy. He hates the problems he has. Xavier, yeah, go ahead.
That he feared about growing old.
Yeah, he has fear. He's afraid of growing old. Good. Trinity, what about you?
It's so scary.
He thinks it's scary. Yeah, and Farrah says it doesn't matter if you're strong or not, right? You're still going to grow old. Gabe says he's nervous. He dislikes the thought. Yes, he's upset or worried. Right. How do you know that? How do you know? Peyton, your hand is still raised. Did you want to answer that? How do you know how he feels? Go ahead, Xavier.
He keeps saying that he he sees the day that his bones will be broken and that such, and they won't work how he used to.
Yeah, he says bones creaking and cracking, right? So that's text evidence. Okay. In this paragraph, there is a lot of text evidence in what the author tells us, the speech that Mabon has. There's a lot of text evidence that supports the idea that he does not want to grow old, that he has ill feelings about growing old, right? Now, I'm going to give you whiteboard tools for a moment here. Just anyone. Go ahead and underline other words or phrases that demonstrate how we can know that Mabon has ill feelings about growing old. Yeah, dim eyes and dull wits. That's not a very positive way of saying that someone is growing old. When I think this might come to me, he knows it's going to come to him. To go tottering, have his teeth rattling, live on porridge like a baby. No worse fate in all the world. Yeah. So there's no fate worse in all the world, in his opinion, compared to growing old. Okay? Compared to growing old. I'll just erase a little bit of this so that we can still see the text here. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces of text evidence here through his speech, right? Through his speech. How about this? This is from his wife. And this again is her speaking. There is, answered Madrona, and that would be to have neither teeth nor porridge. Get on with you, Mabon, and stop borrowing trouble. Hoe your field, or you'll have no crop to harvest and no food for you or me or the little ones. So what do we learn about Madrona from what she says? There's some polling tools. A, Madrona is selfish. She doesn't care about Mabon and his dreams. B, Madrona is practical. She thinks the wishes should have been used to provide for the family. C, Madrona is greedy. She thinks Mabon should have wished for gold and jewelry for her. D, I'm still thinking. Now, we haven't actually read the part about the wishes, but we are going to read that today. We're going to find out that Mabon gets a wish to be granted. You know, she says he's borrowing trouble. She says there's plenty of things worse than growing old, doesn't she? Plenty of things worse than growing old. Yeah, sometimes the bad thing about Neuro is that once you choose an answer with the polling tools, it doesn't let you change your answer. But I'll just show you the polling real quick. 14 of you said that it was letter B, and that is correct. Even though we haven't heard what the wish is yet, she is practical. She thinks he needs to provide for the family. Hoe your field, right? Hoe your field so that we can have food to eat. Okay? Okay, so a little bit of practice with visualization and thinking about sensory details. Okay? Sensory details. Number one, what senses are in each example of imagery? I could hear the popping and crackling as Mom dropped the bacon into the frying pan, and soon the salty, greasy smell wafted toward me. So what senses are used in the language in number one? Just look at number one. What senses? Yep. So here, I could hear the popping and smell. Yep. Number two, glittering white. The blanket of snow covered everything in sight. Yep, sight. Good. Number three, we're going to do is a waterfall. Okay. Number three, we're going to do is a waterfall. As a reminder, a waterfall is when you type your answer in the chat, but you do not hit enter until I say waterfall. Okay, so when I read number three, you type your answer, but don't hit enter. When I'm finished, I'll say waterfall, and then you'll hit enter. Okay, so number three says, the golden yellow sunlight filtered down through the pale new leaves on the oak trees, coming to rest on Jessica's brow, toes that were splayed in the red Georgia mud. So I'll give you a second to write those answers, and if there's more than one sense used, then you can do more than one. The golden yellow sunlight filtered down through the pale new leaves on the oak trees, coming to rest on Jessica's brown toes that were splayed in the red Georgia mud. Ready? Waterfall. Sight and touch. Yeah, it says, you know, the sun, she could feel the sun on her toes. She could feel the heat. And her toes were splayed in the red Georgia mud. So think about what it would feel to have your bare feet squishing in the mud. Definitely sense of touch. Good job. Number four, we'll do as a waterfall. My toes went numb and a shiver ran through my body as I stepped into the cold river. Ready? Waterfall. Yeah, touch or feel. Numb toes. Brr. A shiver. Good. So that's just a reminder, right? Some examples of imagery and how authors use imagery in stories. Okay, so now we're going to get back to our reading. Actually, I think that we need to go back to the slide from yesterday because we didn't read the bottom half of the page, I believe. So we need to read the bottom half of this page. We ended here. So this is a great time to have readers volunteer for reading by raising your hand. The only people who should have their mics on are people who are currently reading, okay? So, and I'll just split up the pages with some lines for paragraphs. So Trinity, you can read at in the midst, and then Cherish, you can finish that page where it says they're struggling. So go ahead and start us out, Trinity, and then the rest of you, we definitely have other pages to read, so you'll have chances when we go forward.
I read until astonished from in the
Yes.
midst. Okay.
Yep.
In the midst of his complaining, Mabon glimpsed something bouncing and tossing back and forth beside a fallen tree in a corner of a field. Wondering if one of his piglets had squeezed out of the sty and gone brooding for acorns, Mabon hurried across the turf. Then he dropped his axe and gasped in astonishment.
Good job. Now Cherish. Is your mic going to work, Cherish? Let's go on to Caleb and Cherish. If we get it working, then we'll come back to you, okay? So Caleb, can you finish this page for us?
There, struggling to free his leg, which has been caught under a log, lay a short, thickest figure, a dwarf with red hair, bustling in all directions, beneath his round, close-fitting leather cap. At the sight of Mabon, the dwarf squeezed shut his bright red eyes and began holding his breath. After a moment, the dwarf's face went redder, and his hair and his cheeks puffed out and soon turned purple. He opened one eye and blinked rapidly at Mabon, who was staring at him speechless. Done.
Good job. So in the chat, who is the new character that appears in the story? The dwarf. Yes, the dwarf. Okay. So Tiana, let me draw some lines here. Tiana, you can read to this line, and then actually, how about this line? Let's split that page in half, and then Xavier, you can finish the page. So just ignore that first green line. There we go. So Tiana, you can start here at what? Yeah, the description of the dwarf does remind me of the gnome.
What? Snapped the dwarf. You can still see me? That I can, replied Mabon, more than ever puzzled. And I can see very well you've got yourself tight wedged under that log, and your kicking only makes that worse. At this, the dwarf blew out his breath and shook his fist. I can't do it, he shouted. No matter how I try, I can't make myself invisible. Everyone in my family can disappear. Poof, gone, vanished. But not me. Not Dolly. Believe me, if I could have done, you would have never found me in such a plight. Worse luck. Well, come on. Don't stand there like a gog bleh, goggling like a idiot. Help me get loose. At this sharp command, my bun began tugging and heaving at the log. Then he stopped, wrinkled his brow, and scratched his head. Well, now, just a moment, friend. The way you look and all your talk about turning yourself invisible, I'm thinking you might be one of the fair folk.
Good job. Now, Xavier, you can finish that page.
Me? I read.
She said Xavier.
Oh. Okay. Oh, clever, Doy resorted. Oh, brilliant, great Koodle Hopper. Giant beanpole. Of course I am. What else? Enough gabbling. Get a move on. My leg's going to sleep. If a man does the fair folk a good turn, cried Mabon, his excitement growling, it's told they must do one for him. I knew sooner or later you'd come round to that, grumbled the dwarf. That's the way of it with you ham-handed, heavy-footed oafs. Time was you humans got along well with us, but nowadays you no sooner see a fair folk than it is grab, gobble, 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 grant my wish. Give me this, give me that, as if we had nothing better to do.
Good job, Caleb. And Xavier, if you get your mic fixed, then you can definitely try again. So just in the chat, who are the fair folk? It doesn't tell us exactly, but from what we get, who are the fair folk?
I think they're like some magical gnome-like creatures.
Yeah. And like others are saying, yeah, some kind of fairy tale, magical beings, these dwarves.
Fair folk are like little genies, but they don't have any lamps. They just grant you one wish as long as you do a good deed for them.
Awesome,
So
AJ.
it's like
Great.
it's
So what would
nice. Gets
check
really
this
good
out,
news.
guys. What would you ask a dwarf for? You can just shout it out if you want in the mic, or you can put it in the chat. What would you ask a dwarf for?
I'd wish to live in Dragon Ball.
You mean
Live Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
I would wish to live in My Hero Academia.
Oh. I prefer to just make my mom happy. That's it. That's all I want.
Oh,
That's all I want.
nice. To travel through animes, money for homeless and the pet shelter and family. Wish for your family to have a nice life. Nice. So now let's make a prediction, but those of you who have read the whole thing, no spoilers. Little prediction. What do you think Mabon will ask for?
Money? Gold?
Maybe?
To not
Xavier
be
said
old.
to never grow old.
Can I tell you why I want to live in Dragon Ball?
Sure, Caleb, go ahead.
Because there are these things called Dragon Ball. They're basically wish orbs, and More wishes.
Technically,
Ah.
if you gather 5 of them, you
7.
can start 7 Dragon Balls. They have little stars on them, 1 to 7 stars. And once you collect all 7 and lay them in a like star shape, you can summon the all great dragon.
Ah.
And he'll
Shenron.
Interesting.
3 wishes.
Yeah, well, screw Shenron. I like.
All right, let's get back to our topic. Although I like Tiana's wish, I would wish to get $5 each 5 minutes. That is a very interesting wish. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, so Xavier, do you want to start reading on this page? And we can split this page in half. If there's others who would like to read, go ahead and raise your hand. So Xavier, you can start at the top here. And then Trinity, you'll finish that page.
Favor, Dolly went on. That's the rule I will get it to. Now get on with it. Hearing this, my Bon pulled in pride and chopped away at the log as fast as he could and couldn't free the dwarf. Dolly heard heave a sign of relief, rubbed his chin, and cocked a red eye at my Bon, saying, "All right, you done your work. You'll have your reward. What do you want? Go, I suppose. That's the usual. Jewels, fine clothes. Pick my faith, 5. Go for something practical. A hazelwood twig to help you find water if your well ever goes dry. An axe that never needs sharpening. A cook pot all brimming with food. None of those, cried Mabon. He bent down to the dwarf and whispered eagerly, "But I've heard tell you fair folk that magic stone that can keep a man young forever. That's what I want. I claim one for my reward."
Oh snap. He just said what he wants. Not money or jewels or the axe that never gets dull. Magic stones that can keep a man young forever. You think he's greedy, Sebastian? Yeah, remember, he does have a wife and kids at home. Just keep that tucked in the back of your mind. Okay, Trinity, go ahead and finish that page.
There's a dog in the background.